Hello, my name is Matthew Hogle. Currently a student at Oklahoma City Community College, and I'm on my last semester there. It's really exciting. I'm almost done, and I'll be graduating with my associates in applied science, and that's great. But that's enough about me. My company is looking at expanding its operations to other countries, and one of the countries on the list is Brazil, which is that's very fascinating, but they have the fourth largest highway system in the world, and that's amazing. But interesting thing, only 90% of that is paved. So when you get the weather and you get the gravel and the dirt, that takes a toll on a car. You're gonna need your car worked on then. But we're also going to take a look at some other things as well, like their social customs, their political patterns, and their value systems, which is, it kind of gets into detail when you start thinking about that. Their social customs. They are acceptive people. And it's amazing because it's one of the top tourist destinations as well. So they see so many different types of people all the time that they're just so accustomed to it. It's amazing, really, when you think about it. Like, you see so many different types of people in a day, especially in the big cities and the big areas. Like, wow, it just blows my mind. But it's a diverse population. Okay, so 48% of the people there are white, 44% are brown, and 7% are black, and then you have a 0.5% that are yellow. And yes, we just classify people by their skin color, but that is how they do their census in Brazil. How many people do you think live in Brazil? 209 million people. Over 209 million people live in Brazil. That's interesting all in itself. Another thing, there's not a lot of personal space in Brazil. When you get to know somebody and you start greeting them, you greet one another by kisses on the cheek, mwah, mwah. And that's very interesting. That's great for a company that's moving there because you get out of your shell so fast because you lose your personal space. Here in America we have our bubble. You don't want nobody to enter that bubble, but when you're forced to get over that, you open up to people so much faster, and that is a good thing, especially for business. Another thing that we're going to talk about is political patterns. What gives humans power? Almost everywhere. Yes. Money. Money gives people power. Money gives people power in America. Money gives people power almost everywhere. The interesting thing about Brazil is that money gives them power, but also farmland gives them power. Also because that, of course, means money. But when you have a lot of farmland in Brazil, you also gain power, which is, it's a very interesting thing. Money, farmland, they kind of correlate there. It's quite interesting. You should look into it. But they also have a democratic government, kind of like we have here. They have a president, of course. It's a democratic government. But they give their president a 4-year term, just like we do here. And, they allow their president to run for 2 terms. Interesting thing about Brazil, they've had a woman president. Dilma Rousseff is her name. And it's very interesting because she was impeached for altering the federal budget, which is, that doesn't help things much in Brazil, but you will see some things later on that why that's interesting. The media digs into sports and politics. So, football is a very big media event there, and it's kind of like big all over the state. It's not just the media, but the media digs into it, and football is like soccer here. So when you think about it, football here, the NFL football, the American football is a very huge thing here, but football there is like soccer here, and soccer there is a pretty big thing. And they dig into it. They love it. That's what they're all about. The media there. what they care about. That's what they get deep into. And that's very interesting. You know, the next thing that we're going to talk about is the value system. Women work in Brazil. And it's great because 40% of the workforce is women in Brazil. But it's sad because at the same time, they're very unlikely to make a high ranking position. And, you know, I have my personal views on that, but that's not what this is about. But it's kind of sad to me. Women can do things that men can't, especially when it comes to a big corporation, like multitasking and stuff like that, you know. Women can do things a man cannot do. And, you know, unfortunately, the woman president did not help, you know, their view on that, but I have a feeling that it may change, but the education changes depending on the poverty level. And it does, but a lot of women are teachers there. But it changes because when you think about it, the education depends upon the poverty level. There's a lot of good colleges there. There's a lot of good high schools there. There's a lot of good education there. But if you go to an area that's in poverty, you don't get very good schooling. And that's because of a lot of things, really. For one, you don't get the same amenities that you would get in a richer school compared to a poorer school, you know, in an area of poverty. Poverty areas suffer because the students don't get there every day. You know, a lot of students miss school. A lot of students don't finish because they need to be working, you know. In the poverty areas, students go to work earlier than they would in a better off area, let's say. Which is really a bummer, but that's also in some ways kind of like America too. You know, they need to work to make ends meet at the house, and you know, education suffers because of that. It also suffers in America because of that. But you know, it happens, and that's a sad thing. But just a quick recap. Brazil has a large growing population that is diverse. And it is actually really diverse when you think about that. But, you know, it is what it is. And education varies by the amount of poverty in the area. And it really does. You have your good schools, and then you have your poverty areas. And that's a lot like America as well. But women make up 40% of the workforce, but are unlikely to obtain a high-ranking position. Unfortunately, that is true, but I'm pretty sure that's subject to change. Women can do a lot of things that a man cannot do. Multitasking is one of them. My mind is, you know, I can focus on one thing and I can obtain that, but I cannot do multiple things at one time like a woman can. If you're interested in where I've got, you know, all of this information, I would like to go ahead and direct you to my sources. This is some of them. And this is the last of them. Thank you.
Let's see if that